So the point of the matter is to make it, client service. Good point of process contractor payments for some LLCs. Client service. Yeah. And so the thing is how do you protect yourself? And that's making sure that from the get-go that you're covered, as far as make sure that you have insurance, that if something does come up down the road, as long as you're innocent, they may cover it if anything comes after you. Number two, definitely make sure it's listed in your in your engagement letter that you do not make determinations between independent contractors and employees, because as we are not attorneys, it's not our place, because that's a matter of law. And so what do we do when a client comes in and says they had a bunch of contractors? Well, hopefully they have W-9s on file for all of them, filed 1099s for them. And also I get a statement from them that says that, that they were responsible for making the determination. And so that way it's worded in my engagement letter as well, that they're responsible for making the determination between employees and independent contractors. But if it's a case that might be a little bit on the fence, I'll get a statement from them that says, tax year, and that they based it on that they were independent contractors. So that way, at least I got it from the client that they classified them. If the client did not 1099 anybody, I do give it to them in writing that they should go back and 1099 them. It doesn't stop me from deducting it, but I do make them aware that they got to go back and file those 1099s. So make sure that is covered there. Then there's what happens if you ask too many questions, which can happen. And, if there's a big expense on the numbers that they've given you, and you take a look at it and they have no W-9s on file, they didn't 1099 anybody, you ask, because you do have to make, that's where this is a little bit tough, because you do have to make reasonable inquiries into the people's numbers. You can't take everything at face value, but like if I see a large number and then take their word for it, get it in writing, I consider myself covered. Depends on how diligent you want to be and how far you want to get into their numbers to see if it's broken down or not. It's hard with the Schedule C guys when you just get like summaries of everything. You can see a lot more detail, like if the person's got QuickBooks or something like that, like how many checks were written, everything else. But so if they didn't do anything, I tell them that they got to go back. I give it to them in writing that they got to go back, get the W-9s, 1099 everybody, get it from them in writing that they, made the determination that they're independent contractors. If it looks funny to me and doesn't feel right, I'm like, what are these people doing? Or they have like subcontracted services and it's just one person and every check's made out to that person's name. And then I ask them, I'm like, well, what is this person doing? They're like, they work at the front desk. I'm like, okay, that's an employee. But I'm not making that determination. So what I tell them is that they need to talk to an attorney and get a determination on if that person's an employee or not, and get them on payroll immediately. I don't force them to go back and file back payroll tax returns for a whole year. Does anybody here do that? Go that far? If they discover that somebody
So do you mention to them that they might have to? And you don't.
Oh yeah, I make them very well aware that that person may be an employee. They need to talk to an attorney, and then it's up to them, to make the determination if they should go back and file payroll tax returns or not.
Now, if they decide that, yes, I want to file the back payroll taxes, do you do that in-house or do you sub that out to somebody else?
Not anymore. I used to, but I sub that out now.
Do you have a company that you use or?
Not at the moment. I
Got
haven't
it.
had it
So
happen in a little while.
a
Yeah,
referral.
there was another person that I was using, but they're not doing it anymore. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't do it myself just because I don't want to deal with the heartache of the client, and the penalties and this and that and everything else. Because you
Yeah,
do it
I don't
all, and
want to deal with that either.
they seem okay with it, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm doing everything right." And then the penalties come in, and it's uh just a mess. And so there's a class on this IRS forum or for EDD department definition employee. Correct. Yeah, with that there. Well, the problem is that if you know the places that you can run afoul of circular 230, you're not allowed to sign a fraudulent tax return or known to be. So if there's people that you know for a fact are employees and they're 1099ing everybody. Or I'm even talking like a bad one. I had to fire a client over it. He took his whole staff that was on payroll and moved it over to 1099. So, I mean, in that pure instance, that, you know, you can't do that. And so knowing the fact that he did that and everything, unfortunately, you're going to come into situation on this that, situations on this where you may end up just not being able to do the tax return because that's where you would get into trouble is when it comes down to it. If an audit comes in something to that extent and the client says, well, he told me it was okay, he did the tax return, and that's where if they can prove that you knew that they were employees that were getting 1099, you technically could get into some circular 230 because you signed a tax return that you knew to be false. And so, does it ever go down that far of the road? Not that I've ever heard of. I've heard of getting the 1099 penalties, but they're also rare as well. Um, but they do happen. So the biggest thing is to protect yourselves in the beginning, which starts with the engagement letter, and also letting your clients know the requirements, and also try to refer them to a system or something to where they're collecting the W-9s during the year, so that they can 1099 them in January. It usually takes a couple years to train a good client. So that's where, what are we responsible for? I try to be responsible for setting them up on the right path so that they know, most of them, if they're going into business for themselves, they don't know the laws. They think that the way that it works is that, it's over $600 and you 1099 them, but they don't put two and two together and be like, oh, I should get the W-9 before I pay them, because you'll actually get the W-9 back. Trying to claw back a W-9 in January from somebody that you've already paid, not going to happen. 9 out of 10 times they won't get back to you. So, but then you do run into the trouble. Has anybody in here? Here's the other side of it too, and the way that I scare my clients into doing things properly is, has anybody here had any dealings with the actual backup withholding and when you have to do backup withholding? So that's where is, and the way that it actually works is you request a W-9. If they won't provide it, you're supposed to withhold, I believe it's 24%, and send it to the government under the person's name without a social. And if you don't do that and get caught later on, the employer, the business, pays that 24% out of their own pocket because they didn't withhold it and send it in on backup withholding. And so that could get very expensive if they don't have all of their ducks in a row.
Darren, I
Yes.
have a client that I'm onboarding for real estate tax strategies right now, and she had a trucking business that is no longer active, but I was just reviewing her tax returns, and she paid $56,000 out on the contract labor line. But the boxes at the top said, were you supposed to give someone a 1099? And she checked yes, or a preparer checked yes. And then it said, if so, did you give them a 1099? And the box said yes. So I asked her where these 1099s were. She was like, oh no, I paid them in cash.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's crazy how many people still don't know that they have to do this.
That they have to do that. And so in that would be a case is, the return's already been done and gone, but you saw it. So I would issue something, in writing to them that says, hey, you should go back and 1099 these people. That's where, as far as covering our butt goes, is making sure that we make the client aware of something because we know better. That's what it boils down to. So in that instance, because what would happen is if you don't say anything, and that's what I've learned is from on the client side, if they don't get audited and we don't tell them, no, like bad client, then they think it's okay because they just don't know what they don't know, or don't care, or aren't smart enough to care. I just had the most painful new business startup appointment, I think, of my career 2 weeks ago.
Thanks for watching. If you found this session helpful, we invite you to join our Pronto Tax School memberships. You'll get access to weekly live mentor support sessions like this one, plus tens of advanced tax course trainings, private groups, special discounts to in-person events, a tax business growth coach, and so much more. Check the links in the description to learn more about our Dream Team and Forever Edition memberships, and join us today.